Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of AmiSights. I'm Ami Kassar, your host, along with my co-host, Lynn Ozer, aka SBA Queen, aka a Springsteen fan. Today, honored to have our guest, Michael Sharp, on from Sharp Financial. Had the pleasure of meeting Michael a few months ago, having a great lunch, and I thought his background and his insights were fascinating, and he would be a great guest to have on the show. So, Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And Lynn, I'm also a big Springsteen fan, so it's all good.
Great. Yeah, good.
You guys are
Good.
making me feel like maybe I should jump on the Springsteen wagon.
You should, Ami. Yeah.
Absolutely. Better hurry, though, because we're not getting any younger, and neither is he.
So, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend.
So I, obviously, what I do now, what I've done over the past 30 years or so professionally is run Sharp Financial, and that's evolved from an accounting firm into really an integrated financial management company where we have different areas, different disciplines that we bring together to hopefully produce an integrated solution for our clients. But also within that time, for me, which, was something really big in my life in general, was I also coached basketball, AAU basketball during that time. Coached, one of the teams that, I knew about even when I was playing way back in the day out of Philadelphia, and ended up coaching there and, wanted to take that team that competed locally in Philadelphia, did very well in Philadelphia, ended up taking it out nationally and ended up being a top 20 team in the country ultimately. And actually, what's really incredibly gratifying is I represent some of the players that I coached, some in the NBA and some in other areas around the world overseas. So it was probably the greatest experience of my life. And now I actually run an AAU organization called the Philly Revolution, also out of Philadelphia. It's actually an outgrowth of the organization that I coached. So that's been a big part of my life. And then with that, even on our financial services company, we represent a number of players in the NBA, some of which are retired players, which also is kind of neat for me because it kind of keeps me connected with my past and growing up and stuff. So it's been a great experience. And it's really one of the things that we hope to use what we do as a firm at Sharp Financial as a platform, not only with regards to basketball, but also a lot of work in the inner cities to try to bring people together and try to make some of those areas safer and so forth. So we work with a lot of people, not even just in basketball, but in basketball as well, but a lot of it also through our firm.
All kinds of things I never learned at lunch. Wow.
Michael, when you started out your business, you said it was an accounting firm. So I assume you went to school to be an accountant and you worked in a different firm and then went off on your own. Is that right?
That is
So
correct.
tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. What made you leave where you were to start your own business? I think that's always a fascinating story.
Yeah, mine is, people that know me probably find it fascinating, but probably find it that it had to be that way. Is I worked for a couple of really good firms, actually in the Jenkintown area. I could take the CPA. You could take the CPA exam back when you were in school, a senior back in those days, and I took it and I passed. And be honest, I thought I was God's gift to the accounting world. Unfortunately for me, I didn't know anything, but I thought I did. And I thought I knew more than my bosses. And although they probably did a great job, and in retrospect, they really did. They're really good people. I thought there were better ways of doing things. And so I quickly found out my career was not going to be working for somebody, which I should have known anyway, the way I was. I was not necessarily great with authority figures to begin with. So my destiny was going to be on my own one way or the other. And it was sooner than later. So I started when I was 29. I quickly found out how little I did know, which really kind of scared me a lot because now I'm competing against people like my bosses who now I know actually do know what they're doing. And I'm the one that didn't, but learned a lot. And the one thing I did get out of it, and I got this out of basketball, was when I played, even before I coached, the one thing I always loved about basketball and the basketball community, it was the one place I could always go and feel safe. I always did. And I always knew someday I wanted to give back to the basketball community because it would do so much for me. And it really did everything for me. I wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for that. And one of the things I got out of it was, and why I felt safe, it was all about teamwork. It was all about bringing people together. And I thought, you know what? If I'm going to go back doing what I do for a living, that is what I'm going to do. It's not going to just be about the business. We're going to make this about what it ought to be, which is let's bring a bunch of people together from different areas and work together with our clients as a team, just like a basketball organization would do. And really got all the principles from all the years of playing and then coaching and brought it to the financial services company. So then the accounting firm ended up becoming, more of a tax area, financial planning area, asset management, wealth management area. We have now an investment banking unit, a venture capital unit. So now we have all these different disciplines in the, financial area, and we kind of bring it all together to give the best, most holistic solution to our clients. And it involves generally different people from the different business units coming together to support the client. And we look at each client kind of as their own family office unto themselves.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I'll share with you guys a story that I dealt with. It was yesterday or the day before. And I'm not going to name the industry, but it was a company that purportedly, I was told, had like $4 million of revenue last year and $800,000 worth. And going through another rapid growth curve this year that they're going to need cash for really quickly. And was busy concocting this plan in my head about, we would do this step and then we would do that step and all kind of based on everything that they told me that could probably get them from a $4 million business to a $20 million business this year. And then suddenly there was an urgent need for some cash in like a week. So I said, let me see the last 6 months bank statements. Okay, I haven't seen any financials yet. And the last 6 months bank statements showed $600,000 worth of revenue.
Oh.
Like, where the hell did all the money guys go? Well, we're diverting it here and we're diverting it there. We didn't want to pay any taxes. Our tax guy helped us come with a structure to do this and do this. I go, you're dead, right?
That's right.
So they saved money. Again, if it's all true, they saved money on taxes and they cut their nose off for their future growth. And it was just a reminder to me, Michael, about the value of, which most accountants don't do, the value of looking at things more holistically and planning for the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we a typical example. I had somebody we were talking actually the last couple of days, different people about like estate tax planning, and they'll talk about, oh yeah, our tax attorney said we could do this, we could do that, and we can really mitigate any potential estate tax issues. And I'll say, so how about what does your personal financial plan say? Like, do you have one? Oh, no, we haven't done that yet. Then how do you know you could commit these amount of assets to a trust that you're not going to need it to live on? And they'll be like, oh my God, I never thought of that. Yeah. It's like, well, can I get it? I said, no, not if it's sheltered from your estate. You're not going to have access to some of it, but very little of it. And it really does go to show that if you just look at certain aspects of a financial situation, you're very likely to miss the big picture. And by doing so, you miss the whole thing and are going to make uninformed decisions, which could really, really be detrimental. And I mean, that's really what you just said in that situation. That's basically what they just did. And that's really unfortunate. But that's what we find is that a lot of the professionals, whether they're RIAs or broker dealer reps or accountants or even tax advisors, they can do a lot of the blocking and tackling, but they're not necessarily too quick to offer advice. And that's where the value is. Like kind of what we do at the, kind of, I'll call it the blocking and tackling level, I hate to say it, but we're kind of a dime a dozen. I mean, there's plenty of firms that can do that. But what kind of value is that really bringing to the client? The way I say it, not very much at all. The value is in what are you doing with that information and how are you advising the client based on that information? That's where all the value is. And it's in income taxes, it's in estate taxes, it's in asset management, it's in cash flow, tax mitigation. I mean, it's all there. But if you're not going to do anything with the information, then honestly, you should pay as little as you can for your advisor or your practitioner. It's not even really an advisor, and just have them get you the information that you need. But really, it's not worth anything if you're not doing anything with it. Because you think about everything or most things from financial presentation and, going back and looking at prior years' tax returns, everything's historical. It's really, what are you doing with that to project into the future? That's where everything is going to happen. Everything that you're looking at that you've documented, it's already happened. It's, unless you're doing something to look going forward, it's not worth very much, unfortunately.
So when you were doing straight taxation or CPA work in the beginning, how did you go about building your team? You'll have a group of people with different areas of expertise. Were they people that worked with you that then migrated into a specialization, or did you go out looking for people, and was that difficult?
That is a great question. And I, maybe a couple of years even, wasn't sure I could answer, or if I would have, I don't think I would have answered it accurately, because I think my perception of that is different than what it is now. And what I mean is, the first part about it is, number one, I was not a big fan about whether you're a CPA or you have your securities. I mean, you have to have what you have to be in compliance. But the fact, and I know for the public, it's what instills confidence in the public, but I passed the CPA exam, and you can pass the CPA exam and not know anything. And also, you could be a very smart person and not apply yourself. And what good is that? And that's same, again, I learned all this, same with coaching. You could have a great player or great talent, but if they don't apply themselves, they're not a great player. It's really the right player, not necessarily the best talent. Same with our industry. And so I think we were able to bring people over, in the beginning when we were smaller, people that we knew. And what I've found, and this is where I go back to the question, and it really being a great question, is what I didn't realize is that when we had to go outside of our universe, that we would pull from a universe that culturally does exactly what we're trying to do better than. And so when we recruit people, it is very difficult. Like when we talk to them about it, they're like, oh my God, that sounds great. That's what I want to do. But in practice, they are not used to doing that. They're used to doing tax returns. They're used to doing financial statements. They're not used to thinking about, I'm doing this, but there's a reason why I'm doing it. I'm trying to create value for our clients. People in my profession don't necessarily think that. It's more, I have to do these things, but not what do they mean? What significance do they have? And how can I best advise on that? So what we have to do now is we really have to try to instill our culture and really keep it at the forefront. So for a firm like ours, if our culture doesn't stay at the absolute highest level, where it's all about the team and people coming together to support each other, if that doesn't happen, what we do can never work. It will never work. It's all about our people. And the other thing about whether they're CPAs, masters of taxation, this, that, or the other, I was never a big, fan of that. Like, again, you could be a CPA, you could have a master's. Listen, I don't think anything any of us do is, rocket science in terms of anybody that want to do whatever they want to do, they can figure it out. It really is how you apply yourself and how willing you are to work very well with other people. And if you could do that, you could kind of teach anybody to do whatever it is that they want to do and what you would like them to do. So that's what we look for, is we look for the right people, not necessarily what people might consider the best people. They may be the best people, but not in our situation. So there's a lot of things that they have to do. But one of the biggest is you have to kind of have a passion for it, and you have to want to work together as a team, both with your colleagues and the clients and other professionals in other areas that we deal with.
Right.
How big is your team, Michael?
We're anywhere, generally around plus or minus 50 right now. That's where we are. And we most of our people are in our Horsham location in Commonwealth Corporate Center in Horsham. We have remote offices in Jupiter, Florida, on East Coast, Jupiter, and in Tampa, St. Pete, and then also in North Jersey and New York. So, but most of our employees are in our Horsham location.
Are most of your clients Philly based, or are they everywhere?
They're everywhere now. I mean, we have a lot of clients even on the West Coast now. We have a number. I mean, that all changed. I'm not the greatest fan of working remotely. I personally like, if you're going to have a team culture, you kind of got to be around each other, in my opinion. And everybody opinion differs on that. But the one thing that it has helped, including our business, is being remotely being more acceptable now, more accepted. You can have clients all over the country. It doesn't, you don't have to be there now. And that has really helped. So we have a number of clients, California, Washington State, and up and down the East Coast. So the reason why we opened up offices in New York and New Jersey, we always had a lot of clients there. We have a lot of clients in the pharmaceutical industry. So we needed to be up in North Jersey and New York. We're very fortunate there. We have some of the bigger clients honestly in the country that are in that industry, pharmaceutical services. Matter of fact, one of our clients was the person that actually created the prescription copay industry. Literally, he started it, and that was a great ride. We have a lot in the advertising, market research, CRO, data analytics, all over. But a lot of them are down up at that New York, New Jersey corridor. So we have that. And then in Florida, we have a lot of people that either, move businesses down there, retire down there. It's become a big thing. Obviously, there's no state tax in Florida, so that's become a big thing. So we wanted to have a presence there as well.
So who is a typical client for you?
I mean, it could be anybody from anywhere. We have a number of family offices. We have, regular business type accounts that, from all different kinds of businesses. It could be distribution, retail, pharmaceutical, financial. I mean, it's, you name it, we probably do it. Like I said, we happen to do a lot in the pharma space because that's just something that we kind of fell into, and it's been great for us. But we have a lot of clients in other areas. And then also, on the wealth side, just for, money management, financial planning, everything we do, no matter if you're a business client, if you're a wealth client, or if you're all of them. We have clients all across all disciplines, including even selling the business or buying businesses, which goes through our investment bank. It's really all is about financial planning. That's where we start with everything. We look at every client first as a family. So, there's that overused term of family office. If you have, $50 million, we don't look at everybody that you don't have to have $50 million. You have different levels of services for how much you might have. But basically, it's almost a respect thing. If you treat everybody like a family office, then that's where it starts. And they might have a business. They might have investments, passive investments, active if they're, running their own business. They might be looking to buy or sell companies. And that's where all the other disciplines come in. But basically, we're really looking at every client as an entity unto themselves at the foundation level, which is themselves, an individual and their family, and kind of build it out from there. And that's kind of the mindset that we want all our people to have with all the people that we serve. And again, it all stems or starts at the financial planning level. That's, everybody wants to say we have the best investment strategy, we tax mitigation, all we do. And we like other people, are very proud of that. But if you don't know the family's financial plan, their goals, what it's going to take to get them where they want to be, then you can't possibly advise them on all these other things because you're doing it in a vacuum. That goes back to the very beginning, what we were talking about. If you're just looking at one aspect, you're hitting the tax mitigation piece, but you don't understand what the long-term effects of that may have on your cash flow, then you miss the whole thing. And the idea about being holistic is by making it about everything, you kind of, limit how much you might miss by doing different varying things from different business units. You're not doing it in a vacuum. You're doing it, bringing it all together.
So I have a question with accounting firms. I don't know if it's still going on, peer review. Like, who does Sharp use to help guide you going forward, or do you have your own succession plan and goals in mind based on your own team doing self-planning, or do you depend on an outside source?
Well,
How are you going to move forward when you reach the time that you are not leading the company anymore? Are you going to sell it, and what are you going to do? And who do you use as an advisor?
yeah, that is really, really good question. It's something we're grappling with now. I when I was coaching, I really thought, because of the success that we had and some of the things my kids went on to do in college and then in the pros, that I always wanted to coach Division I college basketball. So I thought for sure that was what I was going to get some looks at. And basically, I think what the world was telling me was, you had good players, but I don't know about the coaching, that it was because of that so much. You're going to have to go back to where you came from, back to work. So that being the case, I really thought, I'm not going to just do this just as a profession, just to make money or whatever. I am going to make a mark in this industry by doing what I think people are really looking for. And if it doesn't work, I'm getting out of it. Like, I'm not going to worry about the money part. And so my goal probably years ago was build this up and probably sell it. Now I want this to live on. Like, I literally have a mission. And like I said, I really do use this a bit of as a platform for a lot of the charity work that we do. And so I don't really, there'll be a succession plan where at some point I'm not going to be able to be here, but I'd like it to be where I turn it over to either an internal group as we're building out our management group, or even, partner with a capital partner with our existing group, but to continue on what it was and what it is that we started and are doing, to really hopefully fulfill the vision that I had. I won't see all of it. I see some of it now, but I want this to live on. I also believe that the financial services industry will be forced to do what we're doing. It may not be for 10, 15, 20 years, but clients more and more want advice. Like, they're starting to figure out, first of all, with technology, they don't need all the things that traditional accountants did anyway. And as technology improves and AI becomes, more in the mainstream, people are going to need advice. That's what they're going to want to pay for. That's where the value is. And so the way I look at it, we're kind of I'm sure we're not a first mover, but we're, in the beginning stages. This is something that we're just getting ahead of. So we're taking all the hits by having to learn how to work our way through this. But in my opinion, it's where the world is going. The public will demand this from their service providers in time. So we're just ahead of it. And I think it's the right thing. It's anything other than what we're trying to do is not worth it for clients. People should do what we do, but there's a lot of risk in it, or there's a lot of perceived risk in it. And that's why people generally don't do it the way we do it, but they will be forced to in time. We're just ahead of it. But it also is in alignment with what I believe in. Like, I just would not do this if we didn't do it the way we're doing. I wouldn't stay in it.
Michael, have you ever heard of the Evergreen Movement or the Tugboat Institute?
No, I haven't.
So I'm happy to introduce you if you like. It's a whole group of business owners and entrepreneurs around, I think, the world, but definitely around the country. It's started by a guy named Dave Wharton. And their whole philosophy is you build businesses to last forever. You don't build businesses to flip them.
That's interesting.
Very.
It
Yeah.
might be I'll send you the information about it. It might be a really interesting group as you're thinking about all these things that you were just talking about. A lot of the people in there, like, tackle that stuff. It's a different philosophy about how you build businesses.
Yeah, I would love to see it. It's funny that you say that, because a lot of the clients, most of them that we serve, and especially with private equity, just getting bigger and bigger in today's world is, that's what people are looking for. People are looking for, let's get in, let's build it, let's get paid on it, and then, move on. And I understand that. I mean, there's a lot to that because people want to do other things in their lives, and that probably gives them the freedom to. But I also think it's nice getting back to, let's build something for the future. Maybe you could still monetize it, but still, like Lynn had alluded to, have a succession plan that lives on beyond you. And I think that's probably what they're talking about, which I think is very interesting. And I think that's probably a pretty good way of looking at things and trying to, try to manage your company in such a way that it's sustainable over time, not just trying to flip it.
I call it flippers and builders.
Flippers and builders. Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very true.
An interesting.
Michael, what are you seeing out there? The world has changed a lot the last couple of months. What are you sensing out there these days?
Well, I think, and I think this has been going on, quite frankly, since the pandemic, is ever since then, and now with some of the things, especially some of the geopolitical things over the last bunch of months, I think there's just a lot of continued uncertainty, not only with regard to, people's business lives, but with regard to people themselves. And I always talk to our group about, there's leaders and followers. We're leaders. We have to be leaders. People are coming to us not just to do a tax return and to do financial statements, and not even just to give advice. It's actually to help them feel better, like to feel more secure. So if there's one thing that I think is out there, and I think it's, again, really got magnified during the pandemic and the after effects, is people feel very insecure. There's just a sense of uncertainty. And listen, even with the coming of AI, which really could be great, I think the way it's being viewed is, oh my God, how is this going to change my life? Not necessarily for the better. And if you have all of that uncertainty, and now that, which we've never seen anything from a technology perspective where we're going with that, I think it is just making people, I think, very, very uncertain, almost where you'll hear people say, oh my God, it's crazy out there. People are crazy out there. Well, maybe they are, but there's a reason why. They're crazy because they don't feel good. They don't feel secure. And, part of any leader, and I say specifically with us, it's not just to do what we do, but it's to provide some type of comfort by what we do, so they can feel more certain and more secure. We can't make them, we can't change everything that they feel and that what's happening out there. But even when people will say to me, well, with all this stuff going on, what do you recommend? Honestly, basically what I tell them is, you can't hide under a rock. Like, whatever's happening out there is going to happen out there, like whether we like it or not. And we just got to try to navigate through it. You got to be nimble, and you got to have courage. You got to believe in yourself, and you have to have faith in the world overall and people. And it may not always be that way, at different intervals of time, but you have two choices. You hide under a rock, and that's not much of an option by doing that, because that doesn't help anything. It just makes it worse. Or you just got to keep going with the flow and moving with the times, and just try to figure out what works best for you and your family. And that's really what I tell people. It's not, there's no answer for it, because there is no answer for it, because nobody knows what this all means. But you shouldn't just quit doing what you're doing. You got to still get after it. As far as we all know, we're here one time, and you want to make the best of it. And it doesn't, you could go through stages where things are volatile. They don't, always work the way you want. They don't make you feel good, but it's up to you to do your part to help yourself and the people around you to make things as the best they possibly can be.
I think what Ami may be asking, and I think we see it in our business, is that we thought people would be sitting on the sidelines more so than they are, right, Ami? People are still doing business, and they're still moving forward, just like Michael's saying, right?
Our activity level last year is I don't read any economic forecasts anymore, Michael. I haven't read them since COVID because I don't think anyone knows what they're talking about. But then sometimes I wonder, is our lending activity, which be an indicator of future economic activity? Very early last year, we saw lenders starting to tighten up, and a lot of weirdness in the small business lending space, which is never usually a good sign. And then the second half of last year, maybe Q2 and Q3, everything was just slow as molasses, right? People were saying it's the election, and I'm like, yeah, it's the election, but it's inflation catching up and COVID cash drying up and PML is upside down. It's lots of things, defaults up at banks. And then the election came, and I just kind of assumed in my head we'd see like a 2-month Trump bump. And then all the uncertainty would settle in again because the fundamentals haven't changed. And I'm telling you, since the election, we can't keep up. The amount, the robustness of demand for people starting businesses, buying businesses, expanding businesses is mind-boggling to me. People aren't bothered by interest rates anymore. I mean, we think our volume in the second half of the year will double or triple our volume in the first half of the year.
Wow.
Super interesting. And if that's a leading indicator for the economy, that's good news.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree. I think that while there may be a sense of, uncertainty and people not feeling great about things all the time, I agree. I don't think people have necessarily, especially in business, have buried their heads in the sand and aren't doing anything. I think they are, and they're continuing to. And I think that's what makes this time where we're at right now a little bit different. And again, maybe that has to do with, the technology boom where we're at and the prospects of that. But whatever it is, no matter how good or not people may be feeling, they are moving forward from a business standpoint and kind of not holding back so much, which I do look at as a great sign, because a lot of times you really similar situations will see a pullback and more, more people being conservative. But I also think that, it kind of shows that, especially in the United States, that, we're very resilient and very creative people, and that like whatever we get hit with, we're just gonna have to figure out how we keep moving forward, because that's, kind of the foundation we're built on. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, which is, I think it's a great sign. Actually, I think you're right.
The story of sometimes when I speak of a guy who had a planning call with me, planning on doing a bunch of investing in his plant and his equipment and stuff. The day after, it was scheduled for the day after Russia invaded Ukraine, and he canceled. It's like, the world's ending.
Right.
Well, we're still here, and kind of my attitude about it, what I say to people is, if the world ends, we're all screwed anyway.
It's funny. That's how I've always looked at it. It's like, as long as we're here, then we're here. Like you got to keep moving on. And if we're not, what's the difference? We're not going to know it anyway. We're not going to be here. So I agree. I mean, it sounds funny. I don't know why more people don't just look at it, or maybe that is what's happening now. More people are looking at it like that. It's almost like, if you're here, let's make the best of it, because it can always get better. We always talk about, I've always had this philosophy, whether I was coaching or here, especially with our clients that are struggling, the idea is live for another day. Because if you don't, then the game's over. But if you do, using an expression, you might hit the lottery the next day. If you're not around to hit it, you're not going to hit it. But if you're around, you might just hit it. And I have found in business, I mean, I have so many stories where, different situations with different clients. I mean, there was just no way, where there was no way out. They weren't going to make it. And we would talk about live for another day, live for another day. And then you live for enough days and you try enough things, and all of a sudden you get a break and everything changes. And so, it's kind of along the lines of what you're talking about, that if you have that mentality of living for another day, it basically means you're a fighter. You're gonna keep fighting until you figure it out. And if you're around and you're living and breathing, then you have the opportunity to figure it out.
And that's exactly right. Tell us a little bit before we wrap up, just maybe some of the best highlights of your coaching work.
Well, that's coaching. The best highlights of my coaching work were I played on some really good teams when I was a kid in Northeast Philly. But my team, really how we got really started, we won the city of Philadelphia when my kids were 10, which for me, I just I couldn't believe. I mean, it was to win the city tournament in Philadelphia with the basketball people and how great the kids are was a great accomplishment. And then when we went AAU and we went regional and started winning tournaments. And then when we went national and became a top 20 team in the country, I actually became like a full-time job. I would say the greatest experience of my life, I love doing what I do, but the greatest experience of my life by far was working with kids and their families. And they always used to say to me, because they most of them got scholarships to college and they were, very happy about that and so forth. But they always say about, what I did for them. And it's why I always want to give back now, because I would never have had half the life I had I not had that experience. What those kids and their families did for me personally, I couldn't repay in 10 lifetimes. I was one of the most fortunate people in the world to have the experience that I had with those kids. And now we're trying to perpetuate that forever by running the organization that we do and keeping alive what we started years ago. But that was the greatest thing I really did. I've had a lot of great experiences of doing what I do for a living and with clients and different things we've accomplished has been great. I love that. But there's nothing for me that can be more gratifying than helping a kid that, doesn't necessarily have the support or the resources to help themselves. Every kid should have a childhood. I grew up in the Northeast, very, middle class at best. And the way my parents raised me, my brother, my sister, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change anything. I hope the same for all the kids that we come in contact and that we could do that in some way for them.
That's great.
I love it.
I do too. It's true.
Michael, where do our listeners find you or your firm if they're interested in learning more about you?
Best place, I guess, would be the website, sharpllc.com. That'd probably be the best way.
SHARPLLC.com.
Yes.
It's been a real treat to have you on. I've learned so much.
I appreciate you guys having me on very much. Thank you, guys.
It was great. Thanks so much for sharing, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Have a great day.
You guys too.